A while back, I made a video talking about Daemon Targaryen and how his character is based on Prince Philip. They are both the perfect examples of men who resent their wives. This video was not well received, to say the least, but there's one thing that everyone agreed on. The fact that Prince Philip is Daemon Targaryen's historical twin. There's a lot of similarities there. And I'm not even talking about the fact that Matt Smith played both characters. So this inspired me to make a video about another Game of Thrones character, Margaery Tyrell, and her historical twin, Anne Boleyn. And yes, Natalie Dormer plays both characters. Before we get into the similarities between Margaery and Anne Boleyn, I want to talk about the parallels between Daemon and Margaery and Philip and Anne Boleyn. Daemon and Margaery both married into power, despite being highborn themselves. Daemon is the rogue prince and has come close to being the king, although the crown or the position that he wants is somehow always out of reach. Another similarity is how many marriages it took for both of them to get to their goal of being a king or queen. Daemon has been married 3 times. Margaery has also been married 3 times. So why is it that Daemon's quest for the throne or for power is so erratic and aggressive, while Margaery is like a skilled ninja? For one, she's a woman. She does not have the advantage of choking her husband, the king or the heir to the throne, just because he disagrees with her. For some reason, women, no matter how high up the food chain they are, they're not immune to a little something called intimate partner violence or DV. But you could say that Margaery's stealth is more than just a noble-born lady's grace. It could be seen as political mastery. What Daemon failed to learn in every marriage or at every stage of his royal quest is what Margaery never misplaced, not even once, not at any stage. And that is the fact that she is not the heir. Surprise, surprise, she's not the heir to the throne, or next in line, or the king, she is the queen, but not right away. So she has to be useful. She knows that the minute she's seen as a threat, she can be removed. Not because she's a woman, but because her power depends on the heir. Her power is earned, it's not inherited. Instead of being whiny and petulant about it, like dear old Daemon, she makes it work. Margaery is an ambitious woman, but she does not resent people who are born into power or who are born to wear the crown. She's not mad at them for it. And that's the difference. We always see ambition as something bad, especially when it comes to women, but really it's just wanting something good for yourself. On its own, ambition is not bad. Not in a woman and not in a man. So why is it that with Daemon, the ambition just doesn't sit well? It's because he's a man-child. He thinks being ambitious is enough. And fighting wars nobody asked for will make him the heir to the throne again. He's not secure in himself, so when he is ambitious, it's a mess. Think about the Purple Wedding for a second. A king was removed, Margaery was involved, but not once do we see her actually do anything. Even when Olenna and Margaery are talking to Sansa to gauge just how bad Joffrey is, they don't make it known that they're on a mission to remove him. It's all very subtle, very clean, very efficient. Now think of Blood and Cheese. Daemon thinks he's so cool in his little hoodie, so badass, hiring idiots off the street and giving them the most unclear instructions imaginable, carrying out a heinous murder that tarnished Rhaenyra's reputation when the murder could have just been an accident. It's just as effective if it's an accident. We all know how that assassination went. And to say that it was a shit show compared to Joffrey's murder is an understatement. Both murders are gruesome, okay? They're orchestrated by a party that needs to be on the throne, but cannot get involved directly. And yet one is just better than the other. It reminds me of that saying, if you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman. And that is how I see Margaery and Daemon. They both find themselves in very similar situations. but they both handle those situations in a completely different way. And say what you will, I believe that gender plays a role. Now let's talk about Anne Boleyn and Prince Philip. Now on the surface, there are more differences than similarities with these two. Philip is from a royal family, and Anne Boleyn was not. There is also the case of, going against the church to get married, and the fact that Elizabeth had to do some convincing, sure, but asking Philip to forgo his titles is not the same as breaking away from the Roman Catholic Church and fighting for an annulment from Catherine of Aragon. But still, there's something very eerily similar, and I think it can be best summed up in both of their titles. Anne's only title, other than the fact that she's the first Queen of England to be publicly executed, was Marquess of Pembroke, a title that she was given because it was necessary for her to have a title to get any semblance of respect in a royal setting. Why was she given this title? Because Henry wanted her to have this title. He was happy with her. Why was Prince Philip crowned prince? Because he wanted more respect. And obviously, that's a good thing. You should be respected. Isn't it interesting that Anne's way of getting a title was to just be a doting and kind presence, earning her place, some would say, and Philip's way of earning a title was bullying, shaming, blackmailing the queen, and pretty much everyone else involved for, the public image of the royal family. Isn't that interesting? Now remind me again, which one of the two was publicly beheaded for adultery and treason? I seem to forget. I'm gonna go ahead and guess it was a woman. Anyways, let's get into the comparison between Margaery and Anne Boleyn. So I don't know if this is a fact, but I think I heard somewhere that they picked Natalie Dormer to play Margaery because the character is based off of Anne Boleyn. And you know what? If that is true, good job. Natalie Dormer is the best thing that has ever happened to the Game of Thrones universe. Her portrayal of Anne is by far my favorite. And I'll tell you why. It's not because she's prettier. It's not because her accent is better or the script is better. It's none of that. It's because she's the only Anne Boleyn who portrays the anger and frustration of a woman who is heartbroken. There are many great portrayals of Anne Boleyn, but they are all either too heavily steeped in the romantic side of the Henry and Anne story, or they're too focused on the strategic and political failures of the Boleyns. None of them are able to strike the perfect balance like Natalie Dormer does. And if you guys watched The Tudors and you were as obsessed as I was, you would know that Anne is a literary woman. She's no stranger to a man writing poems for her. So why is it that Henry's able to, sweep her off her feet? And he did, because while her father and her brother look at him as this golden ticket, she actually makes the mistake of falling for him. We know that because there's this one scene where George looks at her and asks her if she's in love with him after reading Henry's letter. And it's in his eyes. It's so sad. He wants her to pretend to be in love with him, but never make the mistake of actually loving him. The Tudors portray something very important, and that is the fact that Henry is able to outplay the player. I don't even like saying it, but who played who? If he stayed loyal for that many years, but the minute she is unable to produce a son, the man is booked and busy, who played who? If he's trying to behead her, but just before that, she's praying for his recovery, even though his death would make her position stronger. Anne is not an idiot. I will die on this hill. She was a very smart woman. The only reason why she loved him is because she's an occasional romantic. And he made her feel like an equal. He appreciated her intelligence, and while we know how quickly he switched up on her, but it doesn't change the fact that being treated like an equal affected her. Anne made the fatal mistake of thinking he actually saw her as an equal. And that is why I feel so bad for her. You could say that this was the chink in her otherwise perfect armor that could have easily guaranteed her long life and reign. If she had lived, who knows? I mean, she was young. She could have given him a son. And even if she had to die, she could have just died from, an illness or an alleged accident didn't. Natalie Dormer's Anne and Margaery seem to exist in a parallel universe. Anne made the fatal mistake of actually falling in love and demanding equality. Margaery seems to have none of those delusions. Margaery is a match for Anne's ambition, etiquette, intellect, while Joffrey is a teenager, but he's just as vicious and entitled and cruel as every account of a middle-aged Henry. So how come Margaery survives her Henry, but Anne doesn't? Margaery plays the same political game. She gets Joffrey to see her as a safe space. That's what Anne did. But Margaery seems to have someone who looks out for her in the form of Olenna. And that's it. That I believe that is the issue. Olenna is a seasoned woman. She's probably one of the smartest people in Westeros. And yes, I do believe she's smarter than Tywin Lannister, Littlefinger, Varys, it doesn't matter. She is smarter than all of them put together. And just because she's not bloodthirsty and you don't see her killing people left, right, center, does not mean that she is soft. If you think so, you are wrong. Anne Boleyn has a family too. It's not like she's an orphan or she's alone, but she is raised in a patriarchal system that, despite being outwardly kind and sympathetic towards her, sees her as nothing more than an object. And that is proven by the fact that before they sacrificed Anne at Henry's altar, they sacrificed Mary. I mean, if there was a third sister, they would have sacrificed her. Olenna understands that Margaery has to marry a Joffrey or two to get where she wants to go, but she does not accept, not for a minute, that her granddaughter should have to survive them. That's the difference between having an old woman running the ship versus an old man. There's tragedy on both sides. There's resources, politics, intrigue. So how come in Anne's case, she was ready to accept Henry's hollow promises as declarations of undying love, but Margaery has this really grounded support system in the form of Olenna specifically, which makes it abundantly clear to her that Joffrey is nothing more than a charming psychopath, and you need to handle him like a grenade. At first, when you watch the show side by side, you think it's because Margaery's Henry dies early on. That's why she's able to do what she does. And Anne is unlucky because her Henry retains the upper hand. But then you realize there's more to it. There's a systemic issue here. And it is not the fact that women are used as pawns in old-timey fantasy shows with feudal systems and whatnot. That's not the reason. It's the fact that when a woman's support system is male-centered, it doesn't matter what the plan is. She's always going to end up as a casualty. And if you've got a smart, kind woman on your side that sees you as more than a 3D printer, even the worst situations, and by worst I mean marrying Joffrey, even situations like that can be salvaged. Basically, if Anne had an Olenna on her side, she would have survived Henry.